Right, now it's time to answer your questions. And there's some pretty good questions on there. What I'm going to do, I've got them on the computer screen, and I'll just go through all the comments and tell you them. Hopefully this won't take too long, but it's quite a lot, so it might take a little while. So the first question is, and this is from Jesus Christ: are you still tattooing, and when did you start getting them yourself? Do you have any regrets? No, I don't tattoo myself anymore, purely because I can't be bothered. When did you start getting them? I started getting tattoos when I was 17, and I stopped getting them when I was about 19, 20, and left them for a little while, and then got a tattoo machine and just started tattooing myself. But I don't really do that anymore. Do you have any regrets? The only regrets about my tattoos I have is a couple, not really a regret, but I just wish that some of them looked better than what they were, or looked brighter than what they were, because a lot of mine have faded. And in a way, I wish I didn't stop getting them. I wish I'd got completely covered. Alright, so that's that one. The next one is Daz Mickey O'Ryu. Hi Malk, my question to you is, you've bugged out in an emergency, you're in the woods, your kit is low, all you have is an emergency blanket, a wool blanket, a knife of your choice, and a bottle of meths, your fire still, and you find an empty tin of soda. What's your setup for shelter, and can you build a cooker? Well, after being on 3 camps with you, and you showed me how to make a cooker, hopefully I should be able to do that. And what I'll have to do, I'll have to do a video of that as well. I'll make one to see if I can. And if I only had one of those emergency blankets, I'd probably make like a, either just a lean-to frame, wooden frame, put that as the waterproofing, or maybe like one of these kind of small one-man kennel things. Right, the next question is from 69 Phuket. Was 9/11 an inside job, and what do you think about the idea that the earth may be flat? That's 2 questions, but it's the year of the cheeky monkey. Was 9/11 an inside job? Well, to be honest, I obviously know about 9/11, but I've not really looked into many conspiracies about it. So for me to say that I think it was an inside job, I don't know. Who knows? I'll have to look into it and come back to that one for you and then give you an opinion there. But like I said, I haven't really looked into 9/11 conspiracy, so can't really say, mate. What do you think about the idea that the earth may be flat? Well, I have had links and that sent to me about that. To be honest, I laughed when I heard it, but I suppose who knows? I don't know about that one. Cheers for your question, mate, anyway. Arthur Bram, my good mate in Germany. When did you start bushcrafting? Now this question is going to come up quite a bit in this, because I've already read these, double check. So I'll answer this like this, and then when we come to the others, I'll read the names out and say I've already answered that. So when did you start bushcrafting? I've always kind of been into survivalish kind of stuff since I was quite young. And that all kind of started from, well, I'll tell you what, when did you start bushcrafting? Let's say if we're going to say actually bushcrafting, like I do now, let's say the round about 2005, let's say. And that's Arthur's questions. But there's other questions like this, but people have asked me where it started. So for Arthur's question, when did you start bushcrafting? Let's say around 2005. And then I'll get to the point on the other bits. Super Saiyan Nick. Have you ever been anywhere outside the UK, maybe to America? If so, did you like your experience? The only place I've been outside of the UK is France, when I was about 12 years old. And we went there on holiday, and we went to Euro Disney and stuff like that. I think it was literally, it had just been built. It's like brand new. And I vaguely remember most of it. Might have been a little bit younger, I don't know. Vaguely remember it. Yeah, it was good, it was alright. But apart from that, France is the only place I've ever been to outside the UK. And yes, I like my experience. Leon RF POA, or Leon RF POA. Dear John J, when people in the United Kingdom practice bushcraft, are there really singing chimney sweeps and nannies, or is that just in the movies? No, it's not just in the movies. There's loads of singing chimney sweeps and loads of nannies. Not necessarily all of them are women, some are men. And most of these singing chimney sweeps go round with a terrible Dick Van Dyke put on Cockney accent. Andrew Moriarty. Hey buddy, what made you get into survival bushcraft, and what's one of the most memorable campouts? That's 2 questions, but I'm sure it's okay. All the best, Andrew. So this one will tie in with Arthur's one. What made you get into survival bushcraft? Now this is going to be asked quite a bit in here. What made me get into it was, this is my memories of it. 2 things really. One was, it was the actual SAS Survival Handbook. And this is kind of where the fascination with traps came in as well. Now my mum, we had a local library, and my mum always used to get books from the library, and I'd often see them on the side and I'd have a look through. You know, like I said, I was 11, 12, maybe younger. And I'd have a look through, but you know, it's always writing, so you don't pay much attention. Or sometimes they might have a decent picture on the front. And you think, oh yeah, you know, look at that, really little. And one day she'd got out, this must have been brand new as well, she got out the SAS Survival Handbook, and it was a big wide one like this. And I remember looking in it and thinking, God, this is amazing. Not really reading anything, but just looking through the pictures. And I remember getting to the pictures of the traps, and that's what really kind of got me interested in it. I kept thinking, oh, I'd love to be able to make those. But I had no idea then. I actually thought, well, I'd never be able to do this. You'd have to be an expert. So that's kind of where it was first ever put in my head, any of it. And then it was later on, sorry, I've got a bit of a cold, that's why I keep coughing and snorting. And then later on, I remember watching the Bush Tucker Man on the TV. And that kind of brought it all back up again. Because this stuff was absolutely amazing. I really enjoyed that. So that's kind of how it started. But then, you know, as you go on, you get a bit older, go to school, do whatever. And then I just started being your average teenager, you know, whatever. Or maybe not your average teenager. Maybe a bit worse, getting in trouble with the law and all kind of stuff like that. And then, well, what made you get into survival? Well, that's that. What made me get into it? The SAS Survival Handbook and Les Hiddins, the Bush Tucker Man. What is one of the most memorable campouts that I've had? Well, probably the most memorable ones are the ones I've had with Paul and Daz, because I hadn't done it for years and had kind of just forgot about it and hadn't done it for a long time. And Daz said, "You want to do it?" And I thought, well, definitely. I was just waiting for someone to just say, because it is much better and so much more fun if you do it with other people. I think so, anyway. So the ones with Daz and Paul, they was the most memorable ones at the minute. They was good. So that's that one from Andrew. So I've got one here, or a couple here, from XDM50, which is Dwayne Myers. Now, Dwayne does these videos himself, and he does them brilliantly, he does them very well. And it was kind of Dwayne who gave me this idea. I noticed a few others, and I watched one of Dwayne's, and I thought it was brilliant. I've just got to click on his. This is Dwayne's questions. So there might be one or two here I can't answer, not through privacy or nothing, but it's just because they'd be too long. I'll tell you what it is. What is your occupation and where do you work? My occupation is, I'm a tree surgeon, tree cutter. I also do kind of we do landscape gardening and stuff like that, or most things to do with outside, but all the kind of harder stuff. You know, not weeding or nothing like that, or grass cutting, but anything that's slightly a bit harder, we kind of do all that kind of stuff. And where do you work? We just work all over the place, wherever calls us, whatever. What other jobs you've had in the past? Like years ago, apart from this one, I've only ever had one job, and that was working in a warehouse when I was about, well, I think I was at school, and I remember the school had said, "Oh, you'll never get a job, blah blah blah." Went to work experience at a warehouse, and they said, "Do you want a job?" And I left school when I was 15 and got a job in a warehouse straight away, full time. It was alright, but deep down, when I think about it now, it was a load of crap, really. And as soon as, when I was about 18, I left. Didn't work for a little while, and then started doing the tree cutting and that. Which job was your favourite? Well, the one I'm doing at the minute. It's hard work, and I mean it really is hard work. You feel it all the time. But you're outside, different places, different people. You can't kind of beat things like that. Do you have any funny stories that you could tell us? Well, that's the one. I won't be able to do that now, but maybe if I can think of some funny stories, I'll do them. Might have to do them in a different video, Dwayne, and I'll tell you them. Now, some questions that people have asked me, I have to really think about this, and this is one of them. And I may go into this more later on, because it's hard to say. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give young Malc? Well, probably one of the one things I would ever tell myself is, obviously you wouldn't know what you're going to do in the future, but just try harder with everything you've ever done. Really go for it. Possibly that. Maybe some other things, but I can't think at the minute. But I'd definitely say to myself, try harder and give it all you got in more things. Well, obviously for me to think about what I would definitely advise myself if I went back in time, I'd have to have a really long think about my life, about any things I've done and mistakes, whatever. Maybe might be getting to YouTube earlier or something. Right, Zeus K9, his question is, were you a skinhead in the 80s, 90s? Well, from about the age of 13 years old, I shaved my head off. I always had a shaved head. Up until I was about... let me think. 25, something like that. Always had a shaved head. And I used to wear a bomber jacket and Doc Marten boots, and I used to listen to a bit of Madness, but that was pretty much about as far as it ever went. So kind of, but kind of not. Maybe in a fashionable way, but it was way out of its time. I've always been one of them kind of people I've not been a follower of fashion or conformity or anything. I always seem to dress differently. Anyway, that's the answer to that. Flaming Domingo said, sauce for 20mm brass or checker plate. Right, we'll go to clickmetal.co.uk and you can get 200mm by 200mm by 20mm thick brass plate. So clickmetal.co.uk, but it's going to cost you, you won't believe it, that'll cost you 175 quid. And there you go, that's your answer, mate. Well, next one, Funky Prepper. Great idea, Malk. For me it's about traps. How did you learn where to place the traps for the best results? Right. Well, this is a bit of a story. Years ago, I used to do quite a lot of trapping for these people who had a big bit of land, kind of like a mansion, a bit run down though. Everything was overgrown, and we used to do a lot of trapping for them. We used to do it for free, kind of, you know, we used to work there, but they used to say to me, do you know anyone who could do trapping? I said, yeah, I could do it. And we used to trap loads of squirrels, rabbits, and mink. Now the way I used to do trap placement was, it's going to sound weird, but pretty kind of blatant. We used to see where the squirrels were, and the squirrels always used to go round a couple of places. One was someone used to put a bird feeder out, and you'd always get squirrels underneath there. And there was a walnut tree underneath. It was like the bird feeder was on the walnut tree, so we used to put the trap there because we knew that's where the animals kept going to. For the rabbits, it was slightly different because this is a weird one. I may have said this before, but what we used to have, we used to prune fruit trees there, and all the prunings, you get long stick branches, and we used to just chuck them in a pile and then later on burn them. And then, but what you'd find in the meantime is that rabbits and stuff would come along to the fire before you'd lit it and start chewing all the bark off the apple sticks. So all I used to do was separate the apple sticks out, put a trap in there, put the apple sticks on top, chuck a couple of apples in there, and it's just the same thing. And the mink was a similar thing. We knew where the mink was passing. It was coming up out of the river by like a jetty thing, like a kind of like decking what overhangs the water. And the mink always used to pass through. So we put the trap just to one side and put a really smelly bait inside it. And that's how we used to do it. So where did I learn, how did I learn where to place trap? I suppose trial and error. And it was just figuring out where the animals were, where they was passing, and then doing it like that. Right, Paul Hodgson. Hey Malk, just to let you know, I followed you for years and I think your channel is great. Cheers, mate. Oh, you know what, I never read this one properly. Question number 1, favourite film? Oh, that's a hard one. I've got a lot of films I like. And because I can't actually think of my favourite, I'll tell you a few of my favourites. Jeremiah Johnson, that's a good film. I recently rewatched True Grit, that's a good film. And then to jump to a different scale, or a different end of it, the Matrix trilogy, I love those films, they're brilliant. The original, old, John Carpenter, Assault on Precinct 13, that's a good film. To be honest, there's quite a lot, and I couldn't actually pick right now off the top of my head which one. But that's a few of the films I kind of like. There may be other films out there which I haven't seen yet, which may be my favourite. This is always a good one. Bear Grylls or Ray Mears? I'm just going to tell you straight away, Ray Mears. I won't say why, but, well actually I will say why, because for me, in my timeline of seeing survival people, it was John Lofty Wiseman's SAS Survival Handbook, and then it was Les Hiddins, the Bush Tucker man, and then a few years later I remember seeing this bloke on the telly, and I think the programme was called something like Country Tracks or something like that, and it was like literally a 10-minute long programme, and it was this bloke, and he started doing all these brilliant things, excellent stuff, and I see him making traps, and I vaguely remember him cooking a rabbit in dock leaves in the ground, and I thought this bloke was brilliant because it had kind of come back again, and that was Ray Mears. By then, after that, I became a fan of Ray Mears, bought his books, bought his stuff, always watched him on the telly, and then I was a firm fan of Ray Mears already, and then this is in my, how it came for me, and then Bear Grylls came along, I was already biased towards Ray Mears, I suppose. So that's that. Have you got children? Right, I've got 2 stepchildren, which I class as, my kids, they're my family, you know what I mean? But I've never actually had any children myself. So RDP Project, Rob, he's read. Good day, Malk. My question for you is, what got you started into the whole wilderness survival, prepping, bushcraft way of life? Well, I answered that one a minute ago, and I think these are going to come up a little bit more again. Seeing the SAS Survival Handbook, basically, and seeing the traps in it. Right, Rick Betchell, what do you view, in your personal opinion and use, is the best knife for bushcraft or survival? That's quite a hard one. I suppose in my personal experience and use, well, the weird thing is, the knife I've used more than any knife, and seems to, anywhere I go, if I'm going camping, whatever, I need a knife for that kind of thing. It depends how you use a knife, because I normally always take the Mora knife, but I wouldn't say that is the best knife for bushcraft and survival. But it's a knife I always take, but it depends how you use it. The Castrum Swedish Forest knife would probably be a better option, but because it's a £100 knife, I'm always too scared to take it out with me. Well, it's a little bit of a weird one. I hope that kind of answered your question. Perhaps later on in life, when I've used more knives, because obviously I've never used every knife, there may be loads out there which are way better than all these things. Once I've used more, perhaps we can revisit this question and we'll do it again. Silver Bear Bushcraft. Stephen, what's your favourite bit of kit you have made or modded? Well, I was thinking about this one because I haven't made much stuff that I've really been proud of or really liked recently. I always like my bows that I make. They're always good and I'm always proud of them. But I suppose the most recent thing really is the small secateurs blade knife. Not so much the sheath, I need to make a better one of these and a different colour one, but I do like this, and it's usable and it's worth using. That's always a good thing. It's all I'm making something if it's not of any use just to look at. So maybe that at the minute. Right, that's that one. Oh, kindly just answered this one as well. Turtle Bushcraft, what is your favourite knife for doing bushcraft? Well, my favourite knife probably is, I suppose it is the Mora, because it's the one I always pick up. I like the handle of it. There's not much I don't like about it. One thing I don't ever do with any knives, unless it's for a video, is I never actually batten with a knife. So there's probably no chance of me ever breaking the Mora knife. Now I know people who swear blind that you can batten them things to hell and they won't break anyway. But I don't. It's just not the kind of thing I do. So, favourite knife for doing bushcraft is probably my Mora. Sid Organ, what's your favourite knife? Probably the Mora. Or this one. But like I said, the only thing with the Castrum Swedish Forest knife, number 10, is I'm too scared to take expensive knives out. Because I think if I lost it, or say you did get stopped by the police or something, and they took it from you, you know. I know if you got good reason, you know what I mean, but who knows? They're probably the Moors. I hope I ain't missed that out. Uncle Pencho. Hi John, do you have any other hobbies than bushcraft? Cheers, Sven. Well, at the minute I'd probably say no, I haven't. That is my hobbies. Bushcraft and survival stuff. If I'm not if I'm not doing the videos, I'm at home making stuff, I'm thinking about stuff to do with that. So probably not really, I don't think. Most of the hobbies go with it. Like, I suppose the hobby of making stuff out of HDPE, but then that's all to do with it as well. So not really. Duke's Pursuits. Hey mate, where did your interest from the outdoors come from? Well, said that already. Like, you know, like we just got the woods just over there, literally, just there. So we always played in the woods anyway, but it was never like survivalish stuff. It was just playing in the woods, messing around, doing whatever. But then I saw the SAS Survival Handbook, and that kind of made things slightly different. Got another one from Rick Betchel. Lighter, ferro rod, matches or other fire making, and why? Well, I learnt a lesson the other day that you can't always make fire with a ferro rod. Matches can get wet, so if I could only pick one, a proper decent lighter. Why? Because it's a flame, and I find you can light things. Light things easy with a flame. You need to do more work to something, I found, when you've got to do it with a fire steel or whatever, or a ferro rod. That's just my opinion. Retina's Beast 89. What do you wipe your dirt box with when you're out camping after you've had a jank? Cheers, mate. Well, I'm one of them kind of people. I always go prepared, and if I haven't gone to the toilet before I leave, and I'm going to do one out there, I'll always take toilet roll with me, always. And if I didn't have none with me, probably a dock leaf or something. Glad Bandana. What's the best way to skin a squirrel? Better yet, can you show us? Well, that'll have to be in another video, I'm afraid. I can't whip a squirrel out now and do one. But I'll just do it normal way, cut down the belly. Well, actually, here's one thing to tell you. Best way to skin a squirrel is straight away as soon as you've killed it. Just skin it in as soon as you can. It seems when a squirrel is warm, you seem to be able to skin it. James Used. What's your opinion on the knife laws in England? Right, now this is a bit of a weird one. Not a weird one, but a kind of complicated one. Because, yeah, knife laws in England are a bit weird and strict. You could say, oh yeah, I'm all for knife laws because, you know, it stops people carrying knives. But the kind of freaks who's going to go around carrying a knife intending to stab you, the laws are going to make no difference to them whatsoever. So it kind of doesn't make a difference what the laws are. But I think if someone has been convicted of a knife crime, then they should be harshly sentenced for it. A lot. They shouldn't be let off and stuff like that. They should be harshly sentenced. So laws can be a good thing. But laws, they just ruin it for the people who's doing it legitimately, I suppose. You know, I could potentially walk out with a Mora and get done for it. But I'm only going down the woods to carve a bit of wood to show you lot. So it's a bit of a weird one. Hard to say. Daryl Appleby asked me, would you rather share a bed with Mr. Bean for the night or go on a long car journey with Mr. Blobby? I'd rather share a bed with Mr. Bean.